Hey, everybody. It's Alexander Manzoni with the Manzoni in the Morning Show. How's everybody doing today? I'm doing good. Wrote some new poems, which I'm going to share with you. But first, a little bit of music. Welcome to Manzoni in the Morning. Got some new stuff for you. Boom. Free speech in the Middle East. There's been a lot of shit going on over the past week with the killing of a journalist, Jamal Khashoggi. And of course, our president is backing up the Saudi government and our huge arms deal. And, that's what really matters. Selling those weapons, not the life of others. Especially when we got this president that's just wants to run free speech into the ground, and he wishes he could just go around and kill off journalists any day of the week. The Washington Post, New York Times, barely New York Times. If only. It's a dictator's wet dream, and he wants to realize it in the United States. And you know what? Fuck that shit. I'm not having it. So I'm writing poetry about it. Free speech in the Middle East. Cold morning poetry. Call attention to the cold-blooded murder of journalists of free speech in the Middle East. They say they chopped him to pieces, Mr. Jamal Khashoggi, for saying what makes sense. They butchered him for saying what needed to be said. And of course, our president is in bed with the killers. He is an ineffectual tool, a fool. Don't you know I would be dead if I lived over there? The air, it is filled with the noxious stink of horror and injustice. Our president calls us left-wing mobs, but he loves the mob. He calls Al Capone Alphonse. Who does that except a fan? A man who should be impeached. We'll see, based on how many people reach the polls next month. We're not the only ones with still beating hearts. It doesn't matter that they're bleeding. Our country is needing a spiritual enema. When did everything become so fucked up? Well, it was like that way from the start. Moses, please part these reprehensible Red Seas. I want to believe. I want to live life without knowing this evil that is growing. Every single day. Be that as it may, autocrats are here to stay. They appear anywhere. Leaders slide in when we're not looking, distracted by political smokescreens. Never forget the screams of the downtrodden. It could just as happen to you. If we continue on this path, I feel the wrath of the dark God. And it is proliferating, multiplying, compounding all of the evil in this world. What do you think, boys and girls? Don't you think it needs to change before we all become strangers to our own humanity? It's a new poem. Wrote that the other day. Here's another new one. This is called Capture of Thoughts. I capture thoughts as they come. May they entertain or educate someone. I don't know why they keep saying poetry is dead on its harrowing terminal breath, when there has been such an explosion of interest and events in the cities, especially here in Spokane, where I can often walk to the next poetry show or take the bus in the rain, a lift if I am feeling fancy. Avoid the mating woolly aphid swarms. Is there any chance that there exists something before you that you are not seeing? Because I do. Poetry is truth. It is an exhalation of exaltation, a dagger thrust into the heart of deception, personal or otherwise. My cries come forward in waves, most days. They must be brought forth to completion. Once written, it becomes a validation of the self. Keeping it inward is a personal hell, and not a question anymore. I capture thoughts as they come, they arrive in due course. Each verse, it is a new beginning. Of course, it must end to complete the cycle. I will never stop until it is done. This feeling I want for everyone. Boom! Yeah! Some new poetry for you, and we're going to have a little bit more. But first, some Spokane story. This is Wayne the Wizard, chapter 12. The Canadian-American border, Thursday, November 13th, 2014, 11 p.m. Now, let us go back to the day before this story or facsimile thereof started. Let us go to a place that is not Spokane, nor is it in the city limits or state limits for that matter. Shit. We are headed past the Canadian border. Less than 100 miles north of Spokane, although this particular location was slightly more like 120 miles north. And this was where one named Wayne the Wizard, drug dealer and chemist extraordinaire, had just arrived at a small ranch in the forested hills with a few of his choicest strong-armed thugs to meet with one of his newer business associates, a Mexican-Canadian or Mexinadian named Juan Pierre, who wasn't fooling anyone with that fake name of his. And it was as fake as a $3 bill. His name, in truth, was actually Juan Pedro, but he had effectively assimilated into Canadian society. There was no longer a Juan Pedro, only Juan Pierre. That man, the real Juan Pierre, the real Juan Pedro, was still living as a humble line farmer from Michoacan. Or rather, his replacement double was. And that man had already been killed by drug lords, feuding over lime production that year. Check the news. It happened. Remember when the price of limes went up in 2014? I do. Wayne had gone on a business excursion to meet with Juan Pierre. They had matters to discuss that were not suited for telephone conversations. And what did those matters entail? Why, methamphetamine synthesis and production on a large scale. Why would it be anything else? Wayne's people, they came first, driving a large AirX RV down a long and winding path, snaking between towering looming trees in the dark and misty night. Their presence was for protection, of course. One could not be too careful in the game. Juan Pierre didn't seem all that treacherous, though. Wayne thought it was probably from spending too much time around those oh-so-polite and helpful Canadian citizens. One too many hockey games with them Canucks, Juan. You're going to completely lose the rest of your edge. Wayne followed behind the RV at 200 yards in his old Ford Ranger truck with his main man, a beast of a fellow named Day-Day, chain smoking in the passenger seat. Well, where the fuck is this shithole at? Said Day-Day, not quite asking a question. It came out more as a statement than anything else. Well, it shouldn't be too far now, said Wayne, his eyes never leaving the dirt road filled with huge potholes. The Ranger hit one and Day-Day's head smashed into the roof of the truck. God damn it, complained Day-Day. You think this asshole would have someone fill this shit in? Quit your whining and keep your eyes peeled for anything out of the ordinary. That's what the point men are for. Sure, pass the buck to the other guys. That's a great idea. I'm glad you're on my payroll. Yup, I can rest easy now. Thanks for really setting my mind at ease, D. Yeah, replied Day-Day, seeming not grasp the unsubtle sarcasm. You're welcome. Wayne huffed gruffly in response and gripped the steering wheel like he had his hands around the circumference of Day-Day's ugly neck, choking all the life out of it. He could distantly see the eyes of what were wolves or coyotes as they reflected the light from the Ranger's high-intensity beams. That was when the CB radio mounted underneath the blue-gray dashboard began to crackle. It was set to a hidden channel, a special frequency provided by Juan Pierre, in a code that was deciphered through increasingly complex clues and innuendos before their departure from America. What the fuck is this guy, a Navajo wind talker? Better safe than sorry. If intercepted, Wayne and his people would stand to face federal charges for their conspiracy. Wayne himself would never physically transport the drugs, but possession did not matter as long as the prosecutor can prove a conspiracy was afoot. That was one of the reasons why Wayne did not like to speak over the phone, nor would he allow any of his main people to either. It made arranging deals and carrying out business a real fucking bitch. For this excursion, Wayne made sure that nobody had a phone or internet device on their person. No, you can't bring your fucking iPad, Wayne had told Stevie, his younger cousin on his father's side. He also had a brother, Terry, that also worked for Wayne, though his capacity was primarily relegated to the lab as Wayne's #1 lab assistant, a position that had as high a turnover rate as one would expect. Terry and Stevie were both millennials, and they were both dickheads in their own right, though for entirely different reasons. Stevie was more of the managerial hands-on, willing to get his hands dirty, i.e. through violence. He was more of a managerial hands-on asshole, while Terry was more of a passive-aggressive, pretentious, bookworm, nerd, hipster type. To Wayne, they were like the children he never had. Which also meant that Wayne thought he had carte blanche to torment and constantly hurl derisive insults at them. Yes, he treated them exactly like they were kids of his. "What, are you crazy?" said Wayne. "I don't want nothing with a GPS. I don't want to see Wi-Fi. I don't want to see Bluetooth. I don't want to see a fucking Game Boy. None of that shit. If I see any of that shit, I'm going to have to assume that you're both in cahoots with the feds. And I'll have Day-Day here put 2 in the back of your dome like it's nothing." Wayne had pointed to Stevie with his thumb acting like as a hammer of an imaginary pistol, and enunciated 2 very clear monosyllabic expressions of onomatopoeia. Pop, pop. "Hey, Wayne," said Day-Day, "do they have Thanksgiving in Canada?" "Shut up," growled Wayne as he took the CB receiver in hand. "You are so stupid sometimes, Jesus Christ." Wayne pressed the button on the side of the receiver with the thumb of his right hand and held it close to his mouth. "I read you. We should be there in 10. See," crackled the CB. "My muscle's gonna roll in first in case there's any funny stuff. Sí, no juegos por mi amigos." "Good. We shall see you soon then. Over and out." "Actualmente. Muy bien." Wayne put the receiver back on the hook and concentrated on the road ahead. Towering evergreen pines and their ornithological and mammalian inhabitants sang their whispering, obscene manic proclamations of vaguely distant suggestion of perpetual doom. Several miles down the winding road, there was a small clearing in the trees where the non-assuming rancher was located. On the southeast side, there was an area surrounded by a wooden fence where the RV and a single black SUV parked. The flower beds near the roof of the porch and mailbox were heavily overgrown with brown tangles of weeds, long dead. The roof, with its peeling shingles, was heavily laden with pine needles discarded from the multitude of nearby trees. A single, motion-activated halogen floodlight mounted on the porch illuminated the vicinity and cast ghostly shadows throughout the periphery. There was the distinct roaring hum of a generator running nearby. The door on the passenger side of the Airx opened and the 4 white boys dropped out of it. This was the muscle, of course. 3 younger dudes in the game that didn't know any better, and 1 grizzled veteran with a conspicuous black diamond tattoo at the corner of his left eye. The grizzled veteran, whose name was Dusty, had a pump-action Remington semi-automatic shotgun slung between the wide shoulders on his back. His face was grizzly framed by the grayed mustache growing up into his sideburns. It formed a beard reminiscent of the forgotten days of the antebellum era Deep South. He was wearing a torn denim vest over a tank top and some brown Carhartt bibs encrusted with eons of automotive grease. He had a swelling beer gut that constantly threatened to peek out from between the buttons on his multi-layered flannel shirt when he wasn't wearing the bibs. His shoulders were broad and he lost a couple inches, though, due to bad posture. 100% pure distilled down-home American flavor right there. All right, kids, announced Dusty, lighting up a non-filtered cigarette. Look alive, else we don't get paid and all up getting home crying with our dicks between our legs. Dusty checked the perimeter, then signaled the okay for Wayne to continue forward with a subtle thumbs up. Wayne parked the Ranger next to his men. The rusty front screen door of the lonely little house swung open. A short, pudgy, dark-skinned fellow wearing an Armani deerskin jacket over top of a hot pink button-up dress shirt walked out the door, followed by two similarly dressed associates of his. Bienvenuto y bonjour, said Juan Pierre as he stepped off the porch, smiling widely, exposing a single salient platinum tooth underneath his thin, black, wispy facial hair. How was your journey, Mr. Wizard? Not eventful, I do hope. Yes? Wayne got out of the truck. He met Juan Pierre halfway as his own men quickly congregated to his side, Day-Day to his left and Dusty to his right, respectively. Hey, we got here, didn't we? Said Wayne, extending his hand for a shake. Juan Pierre shook his hand limply. Wayne found himself overcome by the astringent smell of cilantro and entirely too much cologne. You could tell a lot about a man by his handshake. Juan Pierre's hands were soft with moisturizer, fingers adorned with tacky glittery gold rings. For a former lime farmer, it did not seem like the Mexican had known the work of the fields for a very long time indeed. Let us go inside, said Juan Pierre. It is quite cold outdoors. I thought you Canadians were used to that kind of thing. I have been here for years, and yet still the blood of mine has not thickened. Properly, come. Bring your trabajadores. We shall speak vis-a-vis of the days to come and the steps needed to be taken. Sounds like a plan, Day-Day, said Wayne, turning to his left. You stay out here and keep watch with somebody. The rest of you, come with us. They nodded to one another and followed the footpath up towards the little house. Once inside, Wayne and Juan sat across from each other in a dimly lit kitchen at a simple circular pine dining room table with Wayne's men to one side and Juan Pierre's to the other. Although Wayne and Juan Pierre's demeanors were congenial in nature, their men eyed each other suspiciously, and there was a distant background muttering of racial epithets coming from both sides. If the two mediators weren't there, there would be, without a doubt, a Robert Rodriguez-style El Mariachi gunfight breaking out at any moment. Mexican standoff. Wayne subconsciously looked around the room for any suspicious guitar cases with elaborately hidden machine guns. Guitar cases. Seeing none, he felt more at ease. I'm sure it is no surprise to you that as of the late, it has become increasingly difficult to get across the southern border into the States, said Juan Pierre, folding his hands together as if in prayer. Of course, replied Wayne, staring back at the Jefe with the cold calculating gaze of a professional poker player. I understand that you have a lab, but lack the chemical constituents necessary to produce the product at a large scale, said Juan Pierre. Absolutely, said Wayne. It gets harder and fucking harder every year. Wasn't like this back in the 80s. No, not like this at all. And that is something I can assist you with most definitely. I can acquire all the pseudoephedrine you need through my extensive lists of contacts and more. Excellent. I have the chemicals but lack the lab and the know-how. You understand? My last operation met with a, shall we say, explosive end. But you know how that is, see? Wayne fake laughed heartily and nodded in agreement. We can help each other, said Juan Pierre. Help each other make an extremely large amount of money. Mucho dinero para nosotros. Isn't that going to turn a few heads, though? Going this big? I mean, I got guys, but how long's it going to be before the Aryans or the Hells Angels come knocking on my door? I can provide limited protection. How do a few men sound? Sounds good, huh? Yeah. And you trust them? See, they are mi familia. Together, we shall push the street-level dealers out of the area. And then saturate the ensuing vacuum with our high-quality crystals. Easier said than done. But that's why they call you the wizard, isn't it? You make the magic happen. Acknowledged Wayne. Close enough. I know you will succeed, said Juan Pierre. My judgment in people has improved substantially over the years. I feel you are a man that can get things done when it suits your interests. So, said Wayne, how much precursor do you got for me now? 4 drums containing 100 kilos, which is more than enough to get you started. How many boxes of your Sudafed cold medicine is that? 100,000, more or less. Más or menos, see. And at the street level prices, that's about $5 million. American. And that is a lot of money, Mr. Wizard. Just from the first couple of cooks. Imagine what it'll be like a year down the line from now. A year? Who's to say? Said Wayne, doubtful. You know, people don't last long in this business. No, mi amigo, Juan Pierre said, arising from his chair. They do not. Let us hope a snake does not eat its own tail. Well, let's hope that it doesn't then. Come on now, Wayne, said the Jefe, arising languidly from his seat to congratulate his new partner. We have much work to accomplish. Thank you. That is a chapter from the Spokane story. It is the story of a father and son meth cooking team living on the streets of Spokane, Washington, doing what they can to survive and profit and getting into all kinds of sticky situations. I came up with the idea when I moved into Spokane, and I was on the streets and just walking around, and I saw these RVs parked on the side of the road like I'd never seen before. And I was suspecting, what's going on in these things? And then one day I'm walking, I think it was on 2nd Avenue by the Chaz Clinic. And then as I'm walking out, there was like this busted ass crazy RV. And then, like, as I'm walking by, the door explodes open and all these crazy people come out. They're like, "Rawr, rawr, and at the time I was rewatching Breaking Bad, one of my favorite TV shows. And I was a little bit depressed that the story was over. And that was the end of that, except for Better Call Saul, but that's like a whole nother ball of wax there. And it's only for like the most hardcore fans. Really. I had some moments. I gotta watch the rest of it. I heard it picked up. But I had this idea for this book, and then I used my experiences that I was having and combined them with stories I heard from other people, or like, while I'd be waiting to get some drugs or waiting at a bus stop or something, you got the guy telling you, this is that happening, So I got the idea for father and son meth cooking team, because I was like Heisenberg and Jesse, really cool team. But what if they were father and son? And they weren't, the father wasn't smart, wasn't a scientist, was just a dirty down home meth cooking superstar. It always interested me, the culture and the drugs, all that, and just how people will develop these followings, these drug dealers, and they can do no wrong. Like when we had this guy, the friggin' tweakers living next door to me across the street, and they had this guy coming all the time, the drug dealer, in the charcoal black Pontiac. And one night he was I heard some shit going down. Opened the door. This guy is strangling a woman in the front seat of his car. And I called the cops. And like as I was doing so, a gunshot went off. And when the cops showed up, all the friggin' my neighbors, mostly dope fiends, but some of them I could tell were just scared, said, "Oh, nothing happened here. Nothing happened." And they showed up with the SWAT team and they went in, but the drug dealer was gone. They didn't get the drug dealer. And I guess they did all the drugs because they didn't get nothing. They didn't get nothing. And it made me feel horrible that the neighbors were just complicit with this. Just like, "No, officer, nothing happened. Oh, I haven't seen anything going on out there," even though for like a month or the 2 months they were living there or whatever, there were people just standing on the porch all the time. I go to open my door, there's a fucking guy just standing, doing this shoulder shimmy shit. And, I had to write about it because that's the only way I know how to deal with it. Writing about it, making the music. It just drove me crazy because I had the drug problem. Heroin for years, doing every drug I can fucking do. And I came out here and tried to get off the shit. And then, like, while I'm off the shit, the tweakers move in, fucking drug dealer outside. All I needed to do was go up there and say, "Hey, let me get some meth." And, I probably wouldn't have got meth because every time I asked a meth head if they know where to get some meth, they're like, "I don't know anything about meth. I don't know anybody who's ever done that. I'll leave it out." It's like, dude, I just saw you with a drug dealer. All right, come on. But a big part of being on meth is lying to yourself, and acting like nobody can suspect what you're doing. You can't be like this and you don't know where to get fucking shit at. So dealing with this idea that people will protect the drug dealer and they will do whatever it takes to protect the drug dealer and their drugs. I wanted to examine that dynamic in the Spokane story. And I do it. I really do it. I go in it hard. And so much crazy stuff happens in the book. I wrote that book, and then I wrote the Spokane Story 2, a whole nother book, and then I started the Spokane Story 3. None of them are published, but they will be someday. Let's go to the next poem. we're going to do, oh yeah, the Migrant Caravan. I bet you Trumpies will love that. All I need to do is put one thing on there, like my Mike Pence video. All I had to say was Mike Pence protest, and I started getting the downvotes. Oh no, this guy, he's talking, he's that goddamn liberal. He's going on about all this shit. He's against America. No, I'm not against America. I'm for America. I'm against injustice and bullshit. And people using bullshit issues to drive a wedge between us and divide us further. This is called the Migrant Caravan is coming. The Migrant Caravan is coming. What to do, America? What to do except grab your long guns, your short ones too, and prepare for the worst. They're coming for your jobs, your children, your daughters, of course. A stupendous wedge issue to divide us further before the 2018 midterms. That'll get old man Clements off his rocker, off his ass, clutching his shotgun all the way to the polls. All we need are people to blame our pain, our fears, our failures upon. It wasn't your boss's fault. You got fired the day after Christmas. No, it wasn't the man who signed your pink slip. It was the Latin Americans from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. Nations you always otherwise ignore. The people from which you have not spoken to except to say you missed the spot. But they're all the same to you rich white folks, all somehow Mexicans or Puerto Ricans. Do you forget that Puerto Rico is a United States territory? But that's another story. The Migrant Caravan is coming, and the president is scrambling the military. It is altogether scary to think about as they shout and scream and sing and march towards the border. They believe they will find solace in our new world order. And they're risking it all to cross between gaps of our unfinished border wall. But that's not all, because some are smuggling drugs. The ones that a lot of Americans love and cannot seem to put down. Listen, hear that? It's the sound of injustice. What was your argument? Oh, really? That's it? That's interesting. It doesn't seem to mean shit. And it doesn't look like those migrants are at all ready to quit. Either face the U.S. or submit to the whims of organized crime. No choice, really. Would you be ready to die if that were you? Tell me the truth. Either way, you lose. The man is coming for you. Migratory blues. The Migrant Caravan is almost here, and a hurricane is sweeping in from the west. It is the ultimate test of their mettle, while politicians muddle the issues akin to a well-mixed mojito. Oh no! Run! It's the Latin boogeyman, and you think he'll do whatever he needs to ruin all of you and make you press 2 while on hold on the phone for English. Multicultural, stay out of our melting pot, hefting your kilos of swaggy pot far across the Sonoran Desert. America first, although I can't deny we are some of the worst people there ever were. For sure. But perhaps we will eventually learn before we completely lose our minds and burn it all down. Is there anyone around with some sense? Someone to take the lead in this calamitous dance. Thank you very much. This has been Manzoni in the Morning. Everyone, have a good day, and don't let all this crazy goddamn news drive you fucking crazy, because that's what they're trying to do. Okay? Love you all. Manzoni loves you. Manzoni in the morning. Ah.